to None Dare Call It Ordinary, the podcast that digs into the unusual, unorthodox, and downright unsettling beliefs found at the depths of the internet and the heights of paranoia. I'm your host, Dylan, and with me is my co-host, the quixotic and questioning Brent.
Quixotic. What does that mean?
It means, I believe, it's a word. I don't really know what it means. Let me look it up. I just know the word. Exceedingly idealistic, unrealistic, and impractical. So
perfect.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I try to find adjectives that are completely 100% true about you every time I do this.
Right.
It's all about fidelity and accuracy.
Yeah, we'll have to make a poster with all my names on it. Just
endless. There's so many names.
Yeah.
So many names.
Or a t-shirt or something. And actually, I want to say, speaking of t-shirts, I want to publicly thank you for buying me and our filmmaker friend a Paths of Glory t-shirt.
Yes,
Kubrick film.
yes.
Yeah.
I haven't bought them yet because they didn't have very many at the theater, but I went to the Redford Theater yesterday to watch Paths of Glory, 1957.
Oh, cool.
Kirk Douglas, directed by one of Kubrick's first movies. Mm-hmm. And really good, incredibly good. I think it's only the second time I've seen it.
Yeah.
Just really good movie. And they always have t-shirts for the movies, and I've never been really attracted to them until I saw the Paths of Glory shirt, which I got.
Did they sell the 2001 t-shirt?
I don't remember if they did. They might have.
Huh.
I might have to look into that because they have all the old ones too. They've got a bunch of t-shirts.
Oh, yeah, probably the Hitchcock. Didn't you go see a Hitchcock movie there, too?
Yes, I've seen a few there. So I think we saw North by Northwest, I want to say. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe so. I really
want to, when I come visit you, I got to check out that theater. That looks really cool. I love that.
Yeah, we got really a few good theaters. Redford Theater and the Senate are the two main ones that we go to. And then right around the block, we have Cinema Detroit. Just lots of good movie opportunities here in beautiful Detroit. You know what other opportunities we have here? We have church opportunities.
I was wondering how we going to segue into that.
This is possibly, so my mom listens to this podcast, and I know she will correct me if this is false. Possibly the first time in my entire life I have gone to Mass 2 Sundays in a row.
Wow.
That might be true. I'm not sure yet. But
2 different Masses, though, so.
Different, yeah, they were different Masses, not in the same building. A much more beautiful building. I was telling Brent before we recorded, a much more boring Mass, where it's this beautiful building, but the echo is so bad that you just can't hear anything. And so you can't really join in on the hymns. The homily was really boring. Actually, the homily at the previous one was kind of interesting. It was about radical acceptance. It was hard to hear it without thinking about perhaps U.S. immigration policy not being so radically accepting of others. But we'll leave that for another podcast. But much more interesting, guitar notwithstanding. I know the traditionalists, they're not going to like the guitar, but at least I could hear the words of the hymns.
Yeah. I can imagine with if that new the Mass you went to today had guitars, it would be just psychedelic trippy with the acoustics of that room.
That's where the guitars should be. That's what they're not getting. We got to get the guitars in the fancy buildings and leave the choir for the more humble churches.
That's exactly right. So what are we dealing with today here? Speaking of church.
So we're dealing with a few things. So speaking of church, tomorrow, when you should be listening to this episode, is Eastern New Year. It's the New Year on the Julian calendar, also referred to as the Old New Year, which I rather like. So, what you're listening to this, it's the New Year, according to the Julian calendar, and you'll start your day listening to Sedevacantism Part 2, and we're, going off of what we did last week, and we're finishing up talking about Marcel Lefebvre, again, the godfather of Sedevacantism. And specifically, we're going to get into his formation of the Society of St. Pius X, which again is the organization that really birthed a lot of future Sedevacantists and the fallout that they and Lefebvre had with the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
So let's get into this. So where did we leave off last time? So Lefebvre, he retired from his post as Superior General of the Holy Ghost Fathers.
That's not to be confused with the really special, extraordinary, ghost-whispering, respectable adults with tall hats and capes position. I don't know if that's
it. That gentleman stayed on. He was, he's a careerist. He stayed on. It's you got to know someone to get that position. He's not giving that away.
That's true. It's a lifer.
So there were Catholic, while he retires, and he's expecting to just retire and just be old and, I don't know, play golf in Florida or something, or the French equivalent of that. And there were many Catholic traditionalists from the Pontifical French Seminary in Rome who had been refused tonsure. And tonsure, it's the practice of, it's the monk haircut. You've seen it.
The typical monk.
So typical monk, if you've seen pictures of Thomas Aquinas is actually my go-to visual image, or Friar Tuck, from Robin Hood. It's the practice of cutting or shaving some or all of the hair on the scalp as a sign of religious devotion or humility. So it's
like a bowl cut.
It's like the opposite of a bowl cut almost. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, apparently God is very pro ball people too, because he likes seeing the scalps from above.
Yeah.
Actually, I bet another advantage of tonsure was so that those Catholic priests in the Americas made it harder for Native Americans to scalp them. No top hair to grab and pull, Actually, they're covered by hats. If you wear a hat, pretty much just cancels out the tonsure, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's because it's funny because I think about the yarmulke, for example, how it's either you cover it more or you get rid of all of it. Those are the only options. And I guess if you're a religious priest, I guess it's okay to not have a hat because you're getting the direct.
Right.
You're letting God know you're getting the direct line. So that might be part of what's going on. I don't know. Anyway, there were these Catholic traditionalists who the kind of a mainstream French Catholic community weren't really into. They were down with Vatican II. They didn't like these old-timey guys. So they were pissed because getting tonsure matters because that is the rite by which, until 1973, a seminarian became a cleric. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like going through school and not getting a bachelor's degree at the end because you like Latin a bunch. So that's kind of what these guys were faced with. And so they asked Lefebvre for a conservative seminary to complete their studies, and he pointed them to the University of Freiburg in Switzerland. But that's not really what these folks wanted. They wanted Lefebvre himself to teach these seminarians. That's really what they wanted. He was, again, a very important kind of conservative traditionalist Catholic figure. And so they wanted the source. Yeah. They wanted the juice. In 1969, Lefebvre was granted permission by a local bishop to establish a seminary in Freiburg, which opened with 9 students, which eventually moved to Econe, Switzerland in 1971.
Damn, that's like a giant school. I had a grand total of 3.
It's the biggest school I've ever heard of.
Yeah, I had a grand total of 3 people, including myself in my Christian high school graduating class. That is true.
Wow.
That is literally true.
Which, who was the highest? Who was the valedictorian?
Not me, which is really embarrassing.
Not you.
I was close. I think I missed it by a point or something. That guy.
So you were second at least.
Yeah, at least I was second. I wasn't third, thank God.
Yeah, you're not third because the problem with being second in that scenario is that you're not in the top 33% anymore. You just went way down. Terribly unfair. I know all sorts of people. I had a giant high school. I think my graduating class was like 800.
Oh, wow. That's
huge. Give or take. So very different.
Nice.
Those public schools, man, in Las Vegas, too many kids.
Crazy. I don't know about that public school thing. Must be nice.
Well, sometimes that's what you have to do. Lefebvre proposed to his seminarians the establishment of a society.
Extraordinary gentlemen? Just kidding. Sorry.
They are extraordinary, and they like the extraordinary rite, so it kind of makes sense. The Society of Extraordinary Gentlemen, wink, wink. But more, he had in mind a society of priests without vows.
I mean, is there really anything worse than vowless priests, though?
Yeah, vowless priests. I mean, they do terrible at Wheel of Fortune. Vowelless, get it? I'm sorry. And so in November of 1970, Bishop Francois Charrière of Freiburg established a provisional basis for 6 years for the International Priestly Society of St. Pius X, SSPX, as a, quote, Pius Union.
Ooh, the best union.
Yeah, this was not well received by the bishops of France. Again, they're more mainstream. They're more down with Vatican II. They don't like all these traditionalists getting in the way of things. And so the bishops of France, they gathered as the plenary assembly of French bishops at Lourdes. They were suspicious of the then legal Econe seminary and referred to it as, quote, outlaw seminary.
Damn, that's another sick burn. And probably a good Western.
Yeah. A bunch of cowboy priests. I like it. It. I think that could work. And the French bishops, they said that they would not incarnate.
That's not to be confused with the term impregnate or incarcerate.
Oh, no, very, very different.
Very different. Incarnate. We use that every day in our language.
Every day I'm always, I tell Lewis, I'm not going to incarnate you today. I know you're taking your medicine and you're very precious to me, but your views on the Catholic religion are just too extreme. You can't become a cardinal. But no, it's not impregnate or incarcerate. It is incarnate, and the French bishops would not incarnate any of the Econe seminarians.
What's a seminarian to do,
I don't know. Because they got into this thing so they could, get all the way. That was their problem, and now they're just facing another roadblock from these probably, let's be honest, these French bishops, they're probably Freemasons.
Yep.
They're probably dabbling in the black arts, and this is what they're up against.
That's right.
This is what happens when you have to stick to tradition. It's just really, it's disgusting, frankly. So the Pope in the Holy See gets involved, and the Cardinal Secretary of State, Cardinal Villot, accused Lefebvre before Pope Paul VI.
That Pope I put in quotes, by the way.
Yeah, quote unquote Pope Paul VI. We all know Pope Michael is the real Pope. And he accused him of making his seminarians sign a condemnation of the Pope. Lefebvre vigorously denied this allegation.
This suddenly reminds me of the Trump-Helsinki-Putin thing, but
it's about the same.
Yeah.
No, I didn't deny him. I said I wouldn't deny him. See, it's would, wouldn't. It's like the opposite then. Then in November of 1974, 2 Belgian priests performed a rigorous inspection on the instructions of a commission of cardinals. While these bishops were at Econe, they expressed a variety of theological opinions. Some of these included...
And I really hope you are all sitting down for this one.
Yeah, these are pretty extreme that these two... they were supposed to inspect the seminarians, and... I will let the listeners be the judge if they have the right to do so after you hear the kinds of things they were saying. So some of their theological opinions included, quote, the ordination of married men will soon be a normal thing, that the truth changed with the times, and the traditional conception of the resurrection of our Lord were open to discussion, and the seminarians and staff objected to these views as scandalous.
Wow. Just disgusting.
And they are. It's disturbing. Yeah. Married men? Can you believe it?
I don't even want to let myself think about that. It's a satanic imagination situation right there.
Yeah, you definitely need a satanic imagination to entertain any of these positions. So after the inspection and after hearing these scandalous opinions, Lefebvre wrote a declaration where he heavily attacked the liberal and modernist trends, read Freemason, read Jewish, trends he considered as apparent in the reforms being undertaken within the church at that time period. He wrote in the declaration, quote, we adhere with all our heart and all our soul to Catholic Rome, guardian of the Catholic faith and the traditions necessary to maintain it, and to eternal Rome, mistress of wisdom and truth. On the other hand, we refuse and have always refused to follow the Rome of the Neo-Modernist and the new Protestant trend, which was clearly evident in the Second Vatican Council and after the Council in all the reforms which flowed from it.
Wow, the modernist trend. The Neo-Modernist.
The Neo-Modernist. Yeah. It's kind of nice because apparently now we're in the throes of postmodernism, and apparently that's destroying the world. That's what the Jordan Peterson podcasts keep telling me. So Lefebvre really had it. He had it easy. He just had to deal with the neo-modernist, which I think is between modernism and postmodernism. So really, it's hard for me to be really sympathetic just because he didn't have. We're in the real crisis mode right now. We have a postmodern church, I imagine. It's not even Novus Ordo anymore. It's post-Novus Ordo. Who knows what's going on there?
Why even bring up Protestant trend, too? Like, Protestant trend, it's, like, obvious. Like, come on. Like, that's a whole different thing.
It's obvious, but this is something, it's a go-to insult for Catholics to just say, oh, you're really just a Protestant. It's funny how...
You don't hear that from the other side, because I grew up Protestant. I remember being like, what are you, a Catholic?
Yeah, exactly. They're just throwing those around as insults. But the SSPX actually, they wrote a book about Sedevacantism, and they called them like devious Lutherans or something. And this is, we'll get into that later. But yeah, this is a very common, everyone throws that around as an insult. So in reply to this declaration that Lefebvre wrote, the Commission of Cardinals declared that the declaration was, quote, unacceptable on all points.
All the points.
Not one point in which it's acceptable. Man. In January of 1975, Monsignor Pierre Mamie, the new bishop of Freiburg, stated he wished to withdraw the SSPX's pious union status. On February 13th of that same year, Lefebvre was invited to Rome for a meeting with the Commission of Cardinals. He described this commission as, quote, a close cross-examination of the judicial type. They wanted to address the contents of his declaration. He met again with them on March 3rd. In May, the commission issued a notification that it granted approval to the Monsignor Mamie to carry out his intentions to withdraw the Society of St. Pius X's pious union status. Lefebvre argued that according to Canon 493 of the 1917 Code of Canon Law...
Which, of course, we're naturally all familiar with, so you can just...
I know all of our listeners are canon lawyers.
Oh, yeah.
So I know this is just inside baseball to them.
Yep.
But according to Lefebvre, only the Pope, which he interpreted to mean a direct decree from the Pope, not a mere retroactive approbation, could suppress a religious congregation.
Well, really, the real question here, Dylan, is why hasn't this been made into a blockbuster movie? This is exciting shit. Maybe this could be the first action movie we produce as a podcast. Let's do it.
I like how, we could be video producers. I think our skills in the podcast realm definitely will transfer over. And this is just high drama.
Yep. Throw some teal orange on it. We're good.
Yeah, forget the Da Vinci codes and the angels and demons. This is the Catholic drama we've been waiting to see. So on May 6, 1975, Bishop Pierre Mamie put his intention into effect by officially dissolving the society. This action was subsequently upheld by Pope Paul VI. He wrote to Lefebvre in June of 1975, telling him of his decision. But Lefebvre, we know, outlaw seminarian. We know he's a punk rock priest. He continued his work regardless, because having taken legal advice from competent canon lawyers who advised him that, despite the letter from Pope Paul VI dated 29th of June 1975, the entire legal process taken against the fraternity had been so irregular that it could not be considered as having been legally suppressed. The Archbishop was further advised that, as the Vatican had permitted priests to be incarnated, again that word, directly into the fraternity on 3 separate occasions, it could be considered that the privilege of incarnating priests directly into the fraternity now existed. Boom.
Wow.
Always have competent canon lawyers around you. You never know when you're going to need to argue your case to the Holy See. It's always good to have that in your back pocket. Have one on retainer, people. You don't want a last-minute excommunication to really blow up your afterlife plans. So Lefebvre also argued that there were insufficient grounds for suppression, as the apostolic visitors, by the commission's own admission, delivered a positive report, and that since his declaration had not been condemned by the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, we've called the Holy Office in the previous episode. It used to be known by a different name, the Inquisition.
Oh, those are the good old days.
Yeah, the good old days. They're still around. They're a little bit more relaxed than they were in good old Spain. He appealed twice to the appellate court of the church, the Apostolic Signatura. Cardinal Villot blocked the move, reportedly threatening the prefect of the Apostolic Signatura, Cardinal Staffa, with dismissal if the appeals were not struck down.
So basically just like a bloodbath. Sorry, we should have forewarned people this would get brutal. We need to start
this is
warnings.
This is really, we should have had a warning, graphic content. We might have to change to say this is explicit. This is explicit graphic content, and we apologize beforehand. So in May of 1977, Mamie warned Marcel Lefebvre that saying a mass in the Tridentine Rite, which is the old Latin rite, could be a break with Orthodox Catholicism. In the consistory of May 24th, 1976, Pope Paul VI criticized Archbishop Lefebvre by name and appealed to him and his followers to change their minds. And it should be noted that this was the first time in 200 years that a pope had criticized a bishop by name.
Damn.
So again, big deal. Pope Paul VI laying it down.
Yeah, he's an outlaw, Sumerian outlaw. He's an anti-punk rocker. He's a reverse punk rocker. It's better.
Yeah, I think that's more accurate. Again, the horseshoe theory of punk rock.
Right.
You go so far, you get so Catholic that you're a renegade once again. On June 29th, 1976, Lefebvre went ahead with planned priestly ordinations despite not having the approval of the local bishop and despite receiving letters from Rome forbidding them. God, this guy he just knocks it out of the park every time. And because of this, Lefebvre was suspended and forbidden to ordain any priests.
Oh, man. That's the worst.
I like how,
for a priest.
He ordains, he's like, I'm going to ordain priests. I know, so one, I don't have the local bishop's approval. Rome, the Holy See has banned it, but I'm going to do it anyway. And then what was his punishment? He was forbidden from ordaining any priests. It doesn't really make sense. That's obviously not something he really cares about. Because again, renegade, outlaw. A week later, the prefect of the Congregation for Bishops informed him that to have his situation regularized, he needed to ask the Pope's pardon. Lefebvre responded with a letter claiming that the modernization of the church was a, quote, compromise with the ideas of modern man, originating in a secret agreement between high dignitaries in the church and who? Senior Freemasons prior to the council.
Oh, man. Freemasons really are all-stars in the conspiracy community, just below the Illuminati. But can't hold a candle to the Jews.
No, Jews
can't hold a candle.
Very sadly involved in every conspiracy theory.
Sadly,
they're not.
Yes.
They're just human beings. And so were the Freemasons. The Illuminati, I don't know. I don't think the Illuminati exists.
I'm pretty sure they're lizards, but...
Oh, yeah. So
the Illuminati. Freemasons.
They're definitely not humans. That's true. Lefebvre was then notified that due to him not apologizing to the Pope, because he's not going to do that, he would be suspended and could no longer legally administer any of the sacraments.
So he had to take his case to the extremely religious People's Court.
Ooh.
But it's Judge Judas, not Judge Judy. So,
Probably in his eyes. Yeah. I don't think it would be extremely religious. I think it would be extraordinary religious People's Court. And it's all in Latin, and you can't really follow along, and it's kind of boring.
Great television.
But yeah, Judge Judas, man. Lefebvre remarked that he had been forbidden from celebrating the new rite of Mass. Pope Paul VI apparently took this seriously and stated that Lefebvre thought he dodged the penalty by administering the sacraments using the previous formulas. So he found a loophole, he thought. Like, oh yeah, I won't do the new one. I haven't been doing that for decades. And the Paul was like, no. I'm talking about all of it. You can't do any of it. In spite of his suspension, Lefebvre continued to pray Mass and to administer the other sacraments, including the conferral of holy orders to the students of his seminary. Because, of course, he's been ignoring the Holy See for so long, he's just going to keep doing it. Why would he stop now?
Right. It's an addiction at this point, really, the ordaining.
Yeah, it is. He can't help himself. It's having a negative impact on his life. He just can't stop. And, we should have sympathy for him. And I think we should have a moment of silence. Okay. All right. Anyway, so, again, Lefebvre just doing his thing. Pope Paul VI met with him on September 11th, 1976.
Oh, the first big 9/11.
The first big 9/11. I think it's just the Freemasons like that date.
Yeah, that's what it is.
It just seems all the Freemason stuff is just happening on 9/11 and this is just more evidence. We're just adding evidence to the pile as we speak. And then Pope Paul II met with him 60 days after his 1978 election win. They were still unable to reach any sort of agreement.
I think he may have had PDS, which is what I call Pope Derangement Syndrome.
Certainly.
Yeah, no one else calls it that, but I do.
You do, and so do I now.
Yes.
That's the official stance on this. And so this is all really, so he's getting reprimanded. He's just, being an outlaw, doing his own thing. Then the Econe consecrations happen. And this is when he gets into some real trouble. And I think Brent has more on that particular episode in this high drama.
So chapter 2, this is after the intermission. Hope you guys use the restroom and you're ready. So at the age of 81, Lefebvre, experiencing failing health, announced his plan to consecrate a bishop to carry on his work after his death. This was controversial since, according to Catholic canon law, which we're all familiar with, a bishop's consecration requires the permission of the Pope. But, wait, like after his death, wasn't Lefebvre a Holy Ghost father? Just keep doing this weird shit as a ghost. Duh, it's like writing his job description, It's like, come on.
Yeah, but he resigned from the Holy Ghost Fathers.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you resign from being a ghost.
That's true. That's a good point. So on May 5th, 1988, Lefebvre signed an agreement with Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, the future Pope Benedict XVI.
And we have to admit that's a big name upgrade, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
Ratzinger to Benedict XVI, way better. Way better name.
I'm going to keep calling him Ratzinger. Ratzinger at this time was the prefect of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith to regularize the situation of the SSPX. Ratzinger agreed that one bishop would be consecrated.
And again, that's also known as the Holy Office, also known as the Inquisition back in the day.
AKA Inquisition. Ratzinger agreed that one bishop would be consecrated for the society. So not long after Lefebvre announced that he'd received a note from Cardinal Ratzinger in which it said he, quote, was able to beg pardon for his errors, he decided to consecrate a successor without papal approval. This was dubbed Operation Survival. And also the worst Mr. Impossible movie yet, too. But that's just... that one went straight to DVD. I mean, Laserdisc. So the note... So the note says, quote, that is why, taking into account the strong will of the present Roman authorities to reduce tradition to naught, to gather the world to the spirit of Vatican II and the spirit of Assisi, we have preferred to withdraw ourselves and to say that we could not continue. It was not possible. We would have evidently been under the authority of Cardinal Ratzinger, president of the Roman Commission, which would have directed us. We were putting ourselves into his hands and consequently putting ourselves into the hands of those who wished to draw us into the spirit of the council and the spirit of Assisi. This was simply not possible.
Not possible. And who is the quote-unquote Pope now? Pope Francis? Named after who? Francis of Assisi. It's just, it's yep. Right at the head of the snake now.
Yes, it's all coming together. The Pope appealed to Lefebvre not to proceed in a, quote, schismatic act, warning of, quote, theological and canonical consequences. So that's not good.
Ooh, a schism. That's a bad word.
Yeah.
Up until then, Lefebvre's just been a pain in the ass. But this is schism, and schisms are not good.
So on the 30th of June, 1988, Archbishop Lefebvre, with Bishop Emeritus Antonio de Castro Meyer of Campos, Brazil, as co-consecrator, consecrated 4 SXPX priests as bishops. Here we go. These names... Whew. All right, let me stretch.
We're going to get it on the first try because Brent is an expert at pronouncing names. And no, we didn't look these up in advance.
Bernard Tessier de Malier, Richard Williamson. Oh, that one was easy. Alfonso de Galarreta and Bernard Fillet.
Hey, I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. So this is part of the sermon that Lefebvre gave right before the consecrations. So here's the quote. This ceremony, which is apparently done against the will of Rome, is in no way a schism. We are not schismatics. If an excommunication was pronounced against the bishops of China, who separated themselves from Rome and put themselves under the Chinese government, one very easily understands why Pope Pius XII excommunicated them. There is no question of us separating ourselves from Rome, nor of putting ourselves under a foreign government, nor of establishing a sort of parallel church, as the bishops of Palmar de Troya have done in Spain. They have even elected a pope, formed a college of cardinals. It is out of the question for us to do such things. Far from us be this miserable thought to separate ourselves from Rome.
I really like how they just threw the Chinese bishops under the bus.
They're like,
just the first thing, like,
dude.
We're not like those Chinese bishops. We're not like these Spanish bishops. We're French.
It's like, get on
We're
that
good.
declaration. Let's start one ourselves.
Yeah.
So on the very next day, the Congregation for Bishops issued a decree stating that this was a schismatic act, and they said that all 6 people directly involved had incurred automatic excommunication.
Man, automatic.
Automatic excommunication. Just like think setting up automatic payments on your utility bills. It's a really good thing to sign up for automatic excommunication too. Those late fees can be a bitch. So
yeah, but I don't get why they have to announce it. Because an automatic excommunication, what I've learned is that it just means no one has to say anything.
Right. No hassle. Just
It's like how murder is automatically illegal. No one has to say, "Oh, yep, that's illegal. You can't do that." It's just automatically you do it, and it's automatically bad. So it's kind of fun that they had to really hit.
Yeah. That is true.
Explicitly automatic payment. It's like when your utility company sends you that email that they're automatically. That's what the Congregation of Bishops is doing.
Yes, that's true.
They're just letting them know, hey, your bill is due in a few days and you'll be excommunicated. FYI.
So there was a fallout, and I think Dylan's going to talk about the fallout.
There was a bit of a fallout for these automatic excommunications that they had to address. So what did Pope John Paul II think of all this? You guessed it. He condemned the consecration in his apostolic letter, Ecclesia Dei. And Brent reminded me that, quote-unquote, Pope John Paul II. I hope you're all just reading Pope. That.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be very clear when we're actually talking about a pope. I just, we'll really flag that for you. So John Paul II stated that the consecration constituted a schismatic act and that by virtue of Canon 1382...
Oh, God, that's such a good year.
Good year.
I'm just kidding.
They say that 1382 is going to be a good year. I think that's how that song goes. But so it's Canon 1382 of the Code of Canon Law. The bishops and priests involved were automatically excommunicated.
I mean, it's just your standard auto excom. It's also, I've heard the term schism thrown around so much. It's like I've got that song, the Tool song in my head. I know the pieces. All right.
Yeah, that song was about this, I think.
Yeah,
I think it was about Lefebvre and how they were really into it. Yeah.
It's not the Fibonacci sequence. It's about this.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, makes sense.
So how did Lefebvre counter this? What's going to be his move? He's been pretty strong so far. So he declared.
Notice lots of declaring going on. Also reminded me of a Russian investigation episodes. Lots of
definitely. You got to declare it or it's not real.
Yeah.
So he declared that he and the other clerics involved did not, quote, separate themselves from Rome and were thus not schismatics.
Yes.
Which, again, is a really good band name. Also sounds vaguely offensive. I don't know why. I mean, I get why if you're Catholic, but even outside, like I think if someone called me a schismatic, I would be offended, even though I don't know why. He saw Pope John Paul II's Canon 1382 and raised him a Canon 1323 of the 1983 Code of Canon Law. Again, I know all our listeners are canon lawyers, and this is all just a refresher for them. But the 1983 Code of Canon Law said that they, quote, found themselves in a case of necessity, not having succeeded, as they said, in making Rome, quote unquote, understand that this change has occurred in the church since the Second Vatican Council was, quote, not Catholic. Really
that's almost Protestant.
Almost Protestant, dipping our toe into the Sedevacantism waters. I got to say, we can see why he's so important to these folks. Lefebvre wrote in a letter addressed to the 4 priests he was about to consecrate as bishops, quote, I do not think one can say that Rome has not lost the faith.
Damn right, son.
Oh, yeah. I also like all these double negatives. I do not think one can say that Rome has not lost the faith. I really like he's really hedging his bets here. He's just dipping his toe. He's not, jumping in right now.
Right.
And then on July 18th, 12 priests and some seminarians, led by Father Joseph Besige, departed ways with the SSPX due to the Econe consecrations. So we can see how SSPX and Lefebvre kind of towards the end, again, dip their toe into those Sedevacantis waters, those cool, clean, completely true waters. But actually right now, we're going to really kind of get into the Sedevacantis stuff more deeply, and there's a bit of a split. So the SSPXers are not Sedevacantists. So let's, I think Brent has more about kind of the differences and how they fought over the ensuing years.
As Dylan said, currently there's a bit of a divide between Sedevacantists and SSPXers. So one sick burn, I was reading that SSPXers call Sedevacantists, quote, diabolical crypto-Lutherans, which is, of course, seriously fucked up.
Yeah, that is, man.
That's just too much. I'll be damned you're going to call me a crypto-Lutheran. Oh, fuck it. So Sedevacantist Reverend Anthony Cicada. So he has some videos on YouTube. He's a Sedevacantist priest, and so he's got a few things discussing some of these issues. So he breaks this all down here. So the R&R
this
camp,
is the guy that we've referred to as Reverend Cicada, I believe, in previous episodes. Because I genuinely did not know how to pronounce his name, and I thought it was funny to call him that. But it's Cicada. Very different.
So we have the R&R camp versus the Sedevacantists. So the R&R camp is what they say recognize and resist. So unlike the Sedevacantists, the R&R camp recognize the post-Vatican II popes as true popes, but you are allowed to resist the Pope's teachings and rights and laws and commands. So, little loophole there.
So they're sellouts, basically.
Yeah, basically sellouts. Yeah, they're just not.
So Sedevacantists are real punk rock, and SSPX, they're like pop punk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're like
kind of like
MXPX.
Something. So it's all really coming together.
Kind of like MXPX, exactly. It's all coming back together. In the past few years, the SSPX released through its U.S. seminary publications arm, bankrolled a book-length attack on Sedevacantists. Now, this is written by John Salza and Robert Sisko.
Yeah, I'm waiting to get my copy in the mail.
Nice.
And we'll definitely be talking about this in later episodes.
That's going to be a good one. So some juicy attacks from the book are as follows. We'll give you guys a little bit of a taste. Here's some from the book here. Quote, Sedevacantism is founded upon the same root error as Protestantism. I think I added a syllable there, but you get what I'm saying. Namely private judgment, which inevitably ends in division. Anything but Catholic. It's poisonous and leads to heresy. Sedevacantists themselves have lost faith in the church, are like unbelieving Jews who were enemies of Christ and have produced the pernicious fruit of a sect. I think there's a typo there, actually. I think it's unbelieving reptilian aliens. Guys, come on.
Yeah, that's a lot. Can we never, if you think some group is bad, can we stop? Can we stop?
Please.
For once. It's 2018.
Yeah.
Just leave them out of it.
Just give them a break.
Give them a break. They deserve a break, for God's sakes.
They've been through enough. All right. So Reverend Anthony Cicada points out that it was Sedevacantist Lefebvre who founded the SSPX, and it's dumb as shit to call, he didn't say that, but I'm saying dumb as shit to come out in support of this disgusting literature. So, he's going to lay down a smackdown on these idiots, and I'm going to quote here to end this. So here's the quote. It is pure idiocy for SSPX priests to endorse Salza and Sisko's 700 pages of anti-Sedevacantist hyperventilations. If you want to call Sedevacantists like me an enemy of Christ, you better call your founder one too. Where do you think we got the idea in the first place? Bitch. I added the bitch, but bitch.
I think you added that last part for dramatic effect, if I'm not mistaken.
I added the bitch in all caps.
Yeah, that's not in the actual quote.
Yeah, it's very catty. These people are very back and forth. It's fun to watch, and I can't wait to get that. So you got the book in the mail coming?
It's coming, and I definitely will read all 700 pages of it. And by read all of it, I will skim it.
Nice.
For some choice little dumplings of truth.
I would like to check that out from the local library.
Yeah, I'm adding it. My Sedevacantis library is just building as we speak. But this is, a really common thing. I think in general, there's a fight over Lefebvre's legacy.
Yeah.
Is he a Sedevacantist? Is he just this R&R crowd?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you see this kind of thing all the time. I mean, you see it in philosophy. I imagine in most disciplines, there are these figures in which there are divisions, and they try to kind of capture these people for themselves.
Right.
And so Lefebvre, again, this is why we call him the godfather of Sedevacantism, even if in some of the quotes, I think said in the previous section, it certainly sounds like he's going in that direction right before he passed away.
Yeah.
That's it really for Lefebvre and the SSPX. And we've got the genuine Sedevacantist coming starting next episode. So Brent.
Yes.
What did you learn on this episode? What really struck you as most interesting?
Well, in researching for it, I remember, did the Cicada videos. I watched a lot of his videos, and I really enjoyed his breakdown of why this book, these guys, the Salzas and the Ciscos are ridiculous, and 700 pages. So I can't wait for you to dig into that one. 700 pages.
I'm excited.
Of hyperventilations. I mean, you're going to be reading hyperventilations. Hope you know. That's like all it is on the page. Like, what? It's like, okay, he's spot on.
You open it and it's just a tape, and you got to play the tape, and it's just that for.
It's like one of those kids' books that you open up. It's like, oh. Yeah, so that was interesting in reading about it, the newer stuff, the newer priests talking about it. I do enjoy the Econe consecrations, always a good time. I don't know. What about yourself? What did you enjoy most about this one?
I definitely, looking at the book and some of those Cicada videos myself, I enjoy that there's finally a book kind of from a traditional Catholic perspective, very explicitly arguing against Sedevacantism, and I'm actually kind of excited to read it.
Yeah,
because I think in general, sometimes a very common idea about other views like outside of religion. I mean, climate change is a good example, or evolution, or what have you. There's a common view that it should be ignored and that we shouldn't give it a platform. And I think that's mostly true, is my guess. But I think there also has to be somebody saying, hey, this is why it's wrong at the end of the day. I think there has to be some kind of sources like this that are easy for people to digest. So I think just that it took so long for that to come out really is interesting to me.
Yeah, digging into the infighting.
Yeah, and I just enjoy all the, Lefebvre just not caring at all what the Pope or the Vatican has to say, and just him doing his own thing.
He really was like the Trump of the Catholic Church. Just didn't,
in a way,
just didn't follow any of the norms at all.
Yeah, and just schisming all over the place, just really. But I mean, if you think he's extreme, you're gonna have to wait, because we are getting into the deep, dark Sedevacantist, just the nugget of the truth, and it's gonna be glorious. And so that's it for this episode.
Woo.
You can find out news from us on our website, nonedarecallitordinary.com. I've now got, there's like a little kind of short bulletin board there, so you can see the kind of next things we're doing. And I'm also making it official that Sundays at 4 p.m. Eastern are going to be kind of live stream editing, so I can, communicate with any of our listeners if they have questions about the episode, or if they even just want to hear parts of the episode in advance. You can do it then, ask me questions. Brent is often there, so you might be able to hear from him as well. And also now officially on our website, we have a source page. And so you can, if you go to nonedarecallitordinary.com, you'll be able to find sources for all of our episodes, Sedevacantism forward. I might kind of go back and add source pages for previous episodes. I haven't gotten there yet. So it's just kind of from now on, you'll be able to find those on our website. Again, that's nonedarecallitordinary.com. And you can also communicate with us via email. So if we got something right or got something really wrong, maybe we're the Protestants, maybe we're the Freemasons of this podcast. And you can always let us know and send us an email at nonedarecallitordinary@gmail.com. And with that, we are